In the beginning, I would like to introduce the main guests and our speakers. So, Monika Hoch-Zielonka, the floor is yours.
I would like to welcome everyone gathered here today. Consul Ms. Anna Tarnowska-Waszek, Karolina Gorazda, Polish Cultural Institute, Councillor Simon Steinberg, Ms. Barbara Kaczmarowska-Hamilton, Kaczmarowska-Hamilton, przepraszam na emocje. Take my apologies. Ms. Anna Mockińska, Ms. Katarzyna Bryl, Royal College of Music, Christina Lowry, Royal College of Music, the pianist, Joanna Piłet, Vice President of Światowej Rady Badań nad Polonią. Big thank you to Mr. Jan Woroniecki z Ogniska Polskiego. Ladies and gentlemen, Monika Hoch-Zielonska is chairman of the Zrzeszenie Nauczycielstwa Polskiego poza granicami kraju, the Polish Teachers Association abroad, and she is one of the co-organizers this event. So thank you, Monika. And at the moment, I would like to introduce amazing person, Dan Zamoyski. Dan Zamoyski is friend of mine. I know him very well since ages, and he will present it for us the amazing speech prepared by Milena Skulimowska. Unfortunately, Milena Skulimowska is ill, so Dan, the floor is yours.
This comes from my grandfather, Władysław, and his wife Stefania, who emigrated to the USA in 1911. So unlike many Poles here in the UK, I'm not a child of a Polish immigrant in World War II. I came here with an English wife in 1981. Long story. So I have had two passports for a while, USA and UK, and I've seen a lot of history from the Polish viewpoint, from the American viewpoint, from the British viewpoint, and from other people's. And for the last 12 years or so, I have been very actively studying Polish history, much more than I did before, even though I should have. Again, my life is a long story. However, my main role here today, I think, is speaking about these fantastic cartographers, which I'll be starting to in just a minute, but also I'm the head of the Polish Media Issues Group. Now, how many of you have heard of the Polish Media Issues Group? Very few, sadly. Well, we go as PMI for short. And it was an organization started in 2005, and what they did was contact media companies and publishers and newspapers, magazines that would do things like use the term Polish concentration camp, which you know is very wrong. It's a German concentration camp in German-occupied Poland, like Auschwitz. That's just one of the things that we contact. So we started then, and we're still going, and it's a hard thing to do to talk to people and say, you're wrong, and here's why. But we have some dedicated volunteers, and none of us are paid. We've done for many years. So if you'd be so kind as make a note of Polish media issues, we have a website which we're currently revamping, and we have a Facebook page with about 2,600 people on it. If you use Facebook at all, you're welcome to join us. Polish Media Issues, that's the name. It's a group, not an individual person. So, without further ado, I would like to start talking about these photographers. I should make it very clear from the start that this lady, I believe it's Dr. Milena Skulmowska, is the one who prepared these notes. I'm just reading them, so it's all her hard work. We'll start out with, there's a general introduction. You can see it on the screen there. Sorry, wrong way. There we are. You see the three mathematicians. Now, I'm going to ask a question throughout this. I'll ask various questions, but how many of you already knew very much, a lot, about these Polish photographers that were the initial breakers of the Enigma code? So be brave if you hadn't knew anything about it at all. Okay, good. That's maybe a fourth of us. This is something after this meeting you will now know some very important facts, which I hope you'll repeat to all of your friends, Polish and not Polish. The story of solving the code of Enigma, a German cipher device used during the Second World War to encrypt confidential messages, was for years, and remains, a subject of interest for researchers and authors, and even movie makers. The intelligence gathered from the decoded messages gave the Allies an advantage and had a significant impact on the outcome of the war. In recent years, Dermot Turing, that's T-U-R-I-N-G, a British author, in his book X, Y, and Z, The Real Story of How Enigma Was Broken, published in 2018, described the cooperation of French, British, and Polish secret services to solve the secret of the Enigma machine. He drew attention to the role played in this process by three Polish mathematicians from the University of Poznan, Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Wojcicki, and Henryk Zagalski, who were able to solve the pre-war version of the Enigma machine, as in 1932, to read encrypted messages which the Germans were using so that they could do secret things that were not going to be nice and they were nasty, and they were getting away with it, except that the Poles, with their Enigma, the initial Enigma machine, were able to decode these and take action to stop it and monitor it. Now, the Germans had begun to develop the Enigma machine around 1919, and it became the coding method for the German Navy in 1926. In 1928, the Poles started to intercept German radio messages coded by the Enigma machine. The Cipher Bureau of the General Staff of the Polish Army, seeing a potential for using the mathematical approach for code breaking, organized in January 1929 a course on the basics of cryptology for a selected group of mathematics students from the University of Poznan. Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Wojcicki, and Henryk Zagalski attended that course, and it allowed them to get recruited to work for the Polish military intelligence. The purpose of this paper is to provide a summary biographies of the three Polish mathematicians and the input into solving the Enigma code. Now we're focusing on the biography for Marian Rejewski. Marian Adam Rejewski was born on 16 August 1905 in Bromberg, German Empire, now Bydgoszcz, Poland, and died on 13 February 1980 in Warsaw. Rejewski's parents were Joseph Rejewski, a tobacco merchant, and Matilda Toms. In 1923, he entered the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences of the University of Poznan to study mathematics. He was awarded a master's degree on 1 March 1929 for his thesis titled Theory of Double Periodic Functions of the Second and Third Kind and Its Applications. Have you got that?
Yes.
Whatever it was obviously very important. That year in January, he attended a course on the basics of cryptology organized by Cipher Bureau, an intelligence agency within the general staff of the Polish Army. He then went to Gothenburg University in Germany to enroll in a 2-year actuarial statistics course. However, he did not complete the course. In the summer of 1930, he was offered a position as a teaching assistant in mathematics at the University of Poznan, which he accepted. Shortly after, he began to work for the Poznan branch of the Cipher Bureau. After the Poznan branch of the Cipher Bureau was disbanded in the summer of 1932, and in September 1932, Rejewski transferred to the Cipher Bureau in Warsaw. So Rejewski began work deciphering the code of Enigma in late October or early November 1932. With the help of information provided by French intelligence, he was able to reconstruct the Enigma machine in December 1932, which is pretty fast. At the beginning of 1933, he was joined by Brzezinski and Zagajewski in the effort to devise methods of deciphering messages encrypted by Enigma on a routine basis. In other words, before they'd done it on occasion, but they wanted to do it on a more routine basis, i.e. all the time. So they had to, I think, develop new methods. He applied statistical analysis to uncover Enigma's cryptographic techniques, allowing the machine to be solved. His insight and unconventional approach to code breaking, based on permutation theory, produced a solution that had evaded his French and British peers. So he led the way there for the world, which is wonderful. On 20 June 1934, Rejewski married Irena Maria Lewandowska, there's a famous name, if you're a football player. They had 2 children, Andres, born in 1936, and Janina, born in 1939. During this time, he continued to work at the Cipher Bureau in Warsaw. By January 1938, the team of Polish mathematicians was able to read about 3/4 of the Enigma messages which were given to them for decoding, which is quite a valuable intelligence to have. After Germany invaded Poland on 1 September 1939, Rejewski, along with Brzezinski and Zagajewski, was evacuated to Romania, although his wife and family remained in Poland, and then to Paris, which they reached before the end of September. In October, they joined a decoding unit operating under the cryptonym Bruno, as in Bruno, at the Château de Vigneuil, northeast of Paris, and by the end of the year, they were again managing to decode messages sent by the German Enigma machines. After the German troops entered Paris in June 1940, of course, Rejewski and the colleagues were evacuated to Algeria. After a new French government collaborating with Germany was established in Vichy, France, Rejewski and his colleagues returned to Vichy, France in September 1940. He worked there together with Zagajewski and Brzezinski for a secret cryptology unit operating under a cryptonym Cadix. Every few months, they would travel to work in a similar decoding center operating in Algeria. During one of those journeys on 9 January, Jerzy Brzezinski died, sadly, after the ship he was on sunk near the Balearic Islands. Now, after Germany occupied Vichy, France, the unit at the Chateau de Vuz had to evacuate in November 1942. Rejewski and Zagajewski moved around across southern France, evading capture. They eventually decided to cross the Pyrenees. Despite being robbed by their guide at gunpoint, lovely, they reached Spain, only to be put in prison. From January to March 1943, they were held at the Seco de Urgay. Then they were transferred to a prison in Lerida. On 24 May, they were released and sent to Madrid. From there, they made their way to Portugal. From Portugal, they traveled on board a Royal Navy ship to Gibraltar to be flown to Britain, where they arrived in August 1943. Rejewski then joined the Polish army in Britain and remained there for the rest of the war, working on decoding. Have you all heard of Bletchley Park?
Yes.
Of course. You've all heard of that. And Alan Turing. Well, this is what happened before Alan Turing even got involved. So, in November 1946, Rejewski was released from the military service and returned to Poland to be reunited with his family, which was still living in Bydgoszcz. Following his return, Rejewski decided not to resume his academic career and took a job in the Department of Sales at Kabel Polski, Polish cable company, where he worked until 1950. Then he worked as a clerk until he retired in 1967. Between 1949 and 1958, about 11 years, Rejewski was investigated by the security services, the SB, an agency combining functions of the secret police and intelligence service by the Moscow-controlled government. However, at that time, almost nothing was known about his wartime fate and work on Enigma. Up to the point of his retirement, Rejewski had maintained complete secrecy about his work in cryptology. In 1969, Rejewski and his family moved to Warsaw, and the full story of his involvement with the Enigma cipher breaking emerged in 1973. This led him to appear in the media, probably across Europe and in Poland and other places. He wrote several technical articles and memoirs from his time in cryptology. Rejewski died on 13 February 1980 at his home in Warsaw following a heart attack and was buried with full military honors at Boyarski Military Cemetery. So, that's Rejewski's life in a very short time. You can see the amazing life that he had. Okay, utterly, they could make a film about Poles doing it. Forget the Alan Turing thing. Okay, now we'll go on to Jerzy Wojcicki. He was born on 24 July 1909 in Lozhana, Russian Empire, now Vyshana, Ukraine, and died on 9 January 1942 on the Mediterranean Sea near Balearic Islands. He was the fourth and youngest child of Zygmunt Wojcicki, a pharmacist and graduate of St. Petersburg University, and his wife Wanda Leopolda Benita. He spent his early life attending a school for pupils of Polish origin in Kiev. However, in 1918, before he was able to graduate, he moved together with his parents to Vyshkov in Poland. Now, Vyshkov, interestingly, is not the fact where my grandfather Władysław went. They were in very, very close to that area, near Pultusk. He attended secondary school there, graduating in 1926. In 1927, he entered the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences of the University of Poznan, where he studied mathematics and geography. On 19 February 1932, he was awarded a master's degree in mathematics, and on 13 December, a master's in geography. Interesting combination. While studying at the University of Poznan, he joined the student corporation Chorowa. It's an academic sort of corporate group, a type of fraternity, which was closely connected with the military circles in Poznan. So, Wojcicki's engagement with the Polish military intelligence started in January 1929 when he entered the cryptology course, which was run by the Polish Cipher Bureau. While still a student, Wojcicki was employed in the Poznan branch of the Cipher Bureau. There he worked on decoding German radio and telephone messages. During 1929 to 32, together with Marian Rejewski and Henryk Zagalski, he dealt mainly with the decryption of the code of the German Navy. After the Poznan branch of the Cipher Bureau was disbanded in 1932, as we heard earlier, he began working at the similar bureau in Warsaw. Now, after Rejewski had reconstructed the German military Enigma machine in December 1932, in other words, he was able to create one, which would have been a very difficult task, I'm sure. Wojcicki and Zagalski started to work with him on the ongoing development of methods and equipment to exploit Enigma decryption as a source of intelligence. Wojcicki invented the so-called clock method for determining the rotor settings in the Enigma machine. How many of you have you seen a movie, The Imitation Game, I think it's called? How many of you seen that? A few of you? Okay, that was about Alan Turing. But again, he stood on the, as they say, on the shoulder of giants to get there. So the team continued to work on decrypting messages sent through Enigma until the summer of 1939, when they passed the discoveries to the British. After the German invasion, in September 1939, Wojcicki had to leave the country while his family, his son and wife, Maria Barbara Majka, whom he married a year before, remained in Poland. Wojcicki, together with Rejewski and Zagalski, evacuated through Romania to France. Now this is repeating what you'd already heard before, so I may skip through a bit. They worked together on the Bruno project, and then they had them go from France to Algeria, and then hide out in various places in Cadiz. So they were working from 1939, these three gentlemen working as a team. They hadn't always worked together, but from that time on, they were together as a team. And each had different things they specialized in as those which were important to the solution of these decoding problems. So, Roszczycki remained in Algeria until early January 42. On his return to France, he boarded the ship called my French is wonderful, Le Mortier, a steamer operated by a general company Transatlantic in Algiers, heading for Marseille. The ship had 272 passengers, 88 of whom were military personnel. It sank in a storm near Balearic Islands on 9 January 1942, but the circumstances had never been entirely clear. It is known that it changed course on 8 January when, during a storm, it received a signal of distress from another ship. The Le Mortier experienced some problems with coal and began to sink approximately 10 kilometers from Cape Fabrice in the northeast of Minorca. There were 93 survivors of the disaster, but sadly Roszczycki drowned. His body was never found. Henryk Zagalski. He was born on 15 July 1908 in Posen in the German Empire, now Poznan, Poland, and died on 30 August 1978 in Liss, Hampshire, United Kingdom. Zagalski's parents were Mikhail Zagalski, who ran a tailor shop in Poznan, and Stanislava Kilsch. He attended the St. Mary Magdalene Gymnasium in Poznan, from which he graduated in 1926. Later that year, Zagalski entered the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science of Poznan University. He passed his final master's degree examination in December 1931. So he was one of the younger ones. You see in the pictures there, it's not showing right there, but he is the younger by a few years, but obviously very intelligent. After attending a course on the basics of cryptology organized by the Polish Scientific Bureau in January 29, so this is before he finished his degree, he was doing a cryptology course. He worked for the Poznan branch of Scientific Bureau until it was disbanded, and then they moved to Warsaw with the others. He worked there together with Roszczycki and Roszczycki on deciphering German codes, and that was the first time they began to work together as a team. In late 1938, in response to growing complexities in German encryption procedures, Zagalski designed the perforated sheet, also known as Zagalski sheets. Now, this was a manual grid-based cardboard system used to determine Enigma's settings. Now, how many of you have heard the term a punched card to do with early computers, IBM computers? Punched cards, this was the first punched card, invented by this Pole. Zagalski sheets, together with the reconstructed version of the Enigma machine and other findings, were passed to the British in July 1939. And were later used at Bletchley Park, as I mentioned. The British Center for Codebreaking and Cryptanalysis during the Second World War. In September, following the German attack on Poland, Zagalski, and Roszczycki were told to evacuate from Warsaw. With German armies attacking from the west, they went east, crossing the river, the border to Romania. And again, from then, they made their way to France, and eventually to the south of France and Algeria. So, now once in Britain, Zagalski and Roszczycki became part of a Polish battalion stationed at Boxmoor near London. They did no further work on the Enigma codes, but they did work on breaking other German ciphers for the rest of the war. So even though they did no further work on the Enigma codes, they did work on other code-breaking activities for German ciphers for the rest of the war. It remains unclear why the two Polish mathematicians were not allowed to join the work of decoding Enigma messages carried by Bletchley Park. It remains unclear. I think that means there's a story there that they can't tell or they won't tell. I don't know what it is, but it seems a bit strange. After the war ended, Zagalski decided to remain in Britain, working as a lecturer in mathematics at the University of Surrey, between 1956 and 1966, then known as the Battersea College of Technology, and before that as the Battersea Polytechnic Institute. His academic career ended in 1968 due to health problems. In 1977, he was awarded an honorary title by the Polish University abroad in London, UNO, for his achievements. He died on 30 August 1978 in Liss, Hampshire, United Kingdom. His body was cremated and the ashes was scattered at the Garden of Remembrance at the crematorium in Chichester, West Sussex. On 6 September 2019, at the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul in Krakow, a ceremony was held to commemorate these Polish cryptologists, Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Wojcicki, and Henryk Zagalski. A memorial sarcophagus was erected at the National Pantheon in the vault of the church, containing urns with soil from places associated with the death or burial of these wonderful Polish cryptologists. I knew some of this history myself, but this was more than I'd known. So I'm very pleased that I've been asked to just read this out. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you've been able to hear me most of the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. It was a pleasure for us to see you. And in the conclusion, I believe that you will remember that Wojcicki invited the so-called clock method, and you will remember about the Zygalski work and Marian Rejewski, of course. And now Monika Zielonka will have a pleasure to introduce us a very great artist, Tadeusz Kurek, the author of this amazing portraits of three important persons, Zygalski, Wojcicki, and Rejewski.